Right, okay, well, good evening and welcome to the 5th of Navigators in General coaching debrief from the GJW Bloody Mary. Now, this possibly should have been the 6th, Simon, shouldn't it? We had a bit of a hiccup with the Grapple Grand Prix, but we'll get back to the end of the show, but a great Bloody Mary, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shame about the amendment to the date of the Grapple Grand Prix, but we were avoiding the cold temperatures. But more importantly, we had a fantastic Bloody Mary and some lightish conditions, but a beautiful day for a winter sail, Simon.
Yeah, no, I think classic winter sailing, really, wasn't it? You know, bit of wind, bit of sunshine, not too cold, and a lot of boats out there. I think, and a lot of people on the shore as well. I mean, I was on the shore, keeping warm, but it's surprising how many people you see on the shore coming to watch. It's one of those few sailing events that people watch. We have, I can't think who the commentator was now. Who was the commentator? Simon.
It's normally Richard Parslow that does it.
Yeah, Richard Parslow.
But yeah, as we were coming around, we could clearly see a hyperactivity on the shore, and it is very unusual, as you say, on a sailing event to have some support. So yeah, very welcome to see some people watching the sailors go around. So
you get a lot of people coming along and talking on the shore. So it's one of those. Well, sailing's all about, you know, meeting your friends and so forth, and these events are all about that. I think Bloody Mary sort of sums it up. Right, let's sort of crack on. So this was the 50th edition, amazingly, wasn't it? So again, a great talk from Brian Willis, who was I think one of the first Commodores, wasn't he? But the founding member of one of the founding members of the Bloody Mary and Queen Mary. Gave a really good talk, didn't he? In prize giving.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it's easy to think, well, it was a 50th year, but of course, we know through COVID and various other times where the reservoir has been low, we've not always run the event. So it's been going more than 50 years. And this one happens to be the 50th edition. And it was great to have the founding member there and for him to explain the story, which was really interesting and definitely, great. And it has become one of those iconic events. And certainly in my diary, there are two iconic events. And this is definitely the number one that I always want to go and say.
Yes, and it's sort of credited around the world. You go to international events and people talk about the Bloody Mary, even though they might not have been to it. So it's one of those events that people have heard about and want to do. And very difficult to win as well. We'll come on to that in a minute. But, so it's a 155-minute. I guess that may have changed as well. I can't remember what Brian said, but it's certainly been 155 minutes for a long time, hasn't it?
It has, and yeah, it's evolved from original format, and like everything you're saying, you know, it subtly changes. But you know, I think it's a great race, and 2.5 hours is more than enough for those people who are even a topper or a mirror. So you know, Ian Dobson and Ted Dobson in their mirror were out there, you know, racing for a good 2.5 hours plus the 30 minutes prior to the start of the race. So yeah, I think more than long enough for a winter's day.
But great to see the mirror there back in it, and with Ian and his son there. The mirrors are actually not met the cut-off in recent years, haven't they? The mirrors used to be it, and I think Ian Walker would turn up mirrors and things like that. But for a long time, mirrors actually haven't been allowed, and toppers was deemed to be the slowest boat. But the mirror's been getting a bit faster in recent years, and now they're pretty much on par with the top. Great to see the mirrors out there.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, a welcome return. And I think with the upgrades to the rig, it's great to see that out there. I think that's made a difference. They're a little bit quicker now and definitely modernised. So yeah, absolutely agree. Great to see the mirror. And also 42 different classes, which is what the Sailjuice Winter Series is all about. It's about getting those boats out of the dinghy park and seeing 42 different dinghies around there. And you're looking around, and you don't often see a British Moth, or you don't often see a Norfolk Punt. So as much as staying a racing, you get to see lots of the dinghies that ordinarily in your local club you don't necessarily see.
Yeah, great sight. So course was a sort of typically take you around the reservoir, but I think it was slightly different this year, wasn't it, Simon? I counted a few more buoys.
Yeah. We were trying to work out. I think it was normally about 8, but this year there were 12, and that was obviously we were just chatting before we came on, and certainly strategic move by the race officer to ensure that the mirror hadn't got round before half of the fleet had set off. So it was quite a clever move, and maximum use of the lake. Which was great, I think.
Yeah, I think it was a shrewd tweak, because sometimes we get legs crossing each other, don't we? I seem to remember that, particularly around the bum, isn't it? You can get two legs sort of merging together, which can cause a bit of havoc.
and confusion, which is definitely not what you want when you've got 120.
Well, confusion, yes, because people end up going to the wrong buoy, don't we? And I think we've occasionally seen that. So I think well done to Dan, who was the race officer. I think it's the second time he's done it, but great sort of course. Right, okay.
Yeah.
So bit of an interesting wind this year, wasn't it? A bit more than last year.
It was interesting, and I think it was a little bit of a slow take up to the event, really, because the forecast storms were not particularly. It might have been gone to the right, because we were sandwiching between 2 30-knot days, really, and actually it turned out to be a fantastic day, and we probably got the best of the whole weekend. So we were quite fortunate, really, and I think once that was clear, that the numbers quickly rose, and we got up to 125 boats, Simon.
Yeah. But I think what it does show was a bit of a bonus for the slower boats. We can see a bit more wind here just after 12 o'clock, can't we? I guess the wind was peaking about 12:15. It looks like.
It was, and the forecast was always sort of like going to drop off in the afternoon, and typically around 1500 the wind drops anyway. So it's what you'd expect. So yeah, the slower boats certainly got the benefit of that, gusting 11 knots or so at that time. There's a couple of other big gusts later on in the race, but predominantly from about 1 o'clock the wind did dip. So boats such as Mozzie, who started 62 minutes later in his 800, probably started out, in the lightest winds. Yeah,
but it can work the other way, can't it? So
it can, and that's sailing. You've got to make the best of the conditions you've got, and that's what we all sail. It's different from one leg to the next, so it's nothing unusual for us as sailors.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah. Some of the highlights, and what are we going to look at today?
Yeah, so tonight I just thought we'd look at several different things, and instead of being in the powerboat for this event and one of the other events, I'm going to actually sail. So it just gives a different perspective, really, as a sailor. So when you start in a rib, you're limited to where the rib can take you and what marks you can go to, because you don't want to affect the sailors. So actually putting a camera on the boat and being in the thick of the action, it gives you a real interesting insight, and putting a video on the boat is really useful. And actually you get to feel much more in tune with what's actually happened on the racetrack, Simon. So I thought we'd look at, firstly, congratulate our back-to-back winners. More about that shortly. How do we set up for success? What prep can we do prior to the event or during our time when we're rigging to set ourselves up to get the best out of the boat and ourselves? How to start and what to be aware of, avoiding a disaster, managing traffic at windward marks, leeward marks, and when you're sailing, and I give you an insight into some of the dramas that Katie and I had in our 2000, and just reminding everybody really about, it's all about maximizing your boat speed to the handicap at all times. And we've got a little bit of tight reach video to show you at the end, Simon.
So yeah, history was made by John and Pank in the Firefly.
Yeah, very light on both of those Bloody Marys. And when I reflect back to last year, we only actually used half the reservoir because there was literally a zephyr of wind. And I actually sailed in that one, and you can literally see your face in the reservoir. So it was absolutely flat calm. And you'd expect.
And I don't think the view of down last year was that anyone would have actually got round the course, would they? I think was the concern.
It was, yeah, you wouldn't have got a lap in. So really important that Dan Fox last year had reduced it to half the reservoir, which was very sensible. And the Firefly slips around faster than anybody else. And boats such as the traditional boats such as Fireflies and Enterprises do really well in the like conditions. But equally, it's really important to remember that you have to sail the boat well in order to do that. So it's not just a given that these boats are going to win. So to win in a zephyr in 2025, and then to come back in much windier conditions when you comparably of 5 to 11 knots is an amazing achievement. And Simon, this particular event is particularly difficult to win.
Well, it is. I mean, Jono was the first to win it consecutive times. I think there's very few who've actually won it more than once. Fireflies have done well. I can't remember. I think it's 2000. Can you remember something? There was a real drifting conditions, wasn't there?
Yeah.
That was pre-COVID, wasn't it? But there was again, Fireflies did well. But I think this year was particularly good, wasn't it? In terms of, you say that the breeze was up a bit, and perhaps not quite the Firefly weather, but fantastic result by Jono and Isobel, and last year sailing with Freddie as well. So Jono's done it with 2 different crews, but fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely remarkable. And yeah, I think he said in his prize giving speech he's going to come back next year. And if the conditions are sub 15 knots, who knows whether we can get a hat trick.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. So Alex, thanks, Alex. 2017, I suppose. Yeah. So we've had the Fireflies win it in drifting conditions, but like this year wasn't really a drift, was it? So,
no, it wasn't. No, and there was a certain point where the 800 was twin wiring a period, and we were playing in a 2000. So for a short period of time. So yeah, definitely gale force compared to 2025. Definitely.
Yeah. So well,
super achievement.
Super achievement, yes. And, never done before, and rarely done, is winning multiple things. So. Right. Okay.
So just really, what did I do, or what did Kate and I do, who sail a 2000, and historically on the circuit, and it was great to be back in a boat this weekend. So what do we do? And we're going to show you some video, which hopefully it's all part of the preparation of what good looks like, really. So you've got to have a real thorough read of the SIs, and in particular with a pursuit race, it's focusing on your start time and what the protocol is for starting. So some events are as the number turns onto your start time, i.e. number 10, you go. And on others, it might be that it's when your number 10 disappears. So you need to really get that SIs well read and understood, and be clear of when, what the rule is around your starting, because you could be disqualified or a minute late before you've even started.
Yeah, I mean, we did see some OCSs, and we have seen OCS, when people have misunderstood the starting sequence.
Yeah, and the other one, which I've certainly prospered from before, is what the rules are at the finish. And traditionally, you have 2 power boats that follow the lead boat, and it's important to understand what the race officer has wrote into the SIs, and in particular, it's whether the boats will go up the run line to the next mark, which is what they generally do, and that's important, because if they don't say that, it means you can sail off on the fastest point to get your boat, keep your boat away from others that may be chasing you, which I've certainly done in the past. So it's really important to read those 2. So my top tips with SIs are: what's your start time, and what are the rules regarding the finish, which I think is key. So that's very simple. You can do that with a cup of tea, over your lunch hour. Easy to do. It's also then important to find out who's entered the competition. So certainly I was watching the entries flood in on the Thursday or Friday before it closed, and eagerly looking at the number of 200s and noting that they were going to be behind the particular boat I was sailing, but also quite concerned about the number of Ilkas that were ahead of me, because I knew getting around those Ilkas was going to be a problem. So I want to know how far ahead of me the Ilkas are, and then I can work out where I'm likely to catch them if I'm able to do so. So that's really important, I think. Who's entered the fleet now? You could say, well, I shouldn't worry about that, but there were 6 boats in my fleet, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to know who was in those boats, because of racing on the circuit, you know what they're going to be like on the start line, and what you don't want to do is be in a bun fight at the start, because if you're OCS or the actions of others create a general recall, we're all in that fleet or that start going to be disadvantaged. So I was very mindful of trying to keep my space. So I was keen to know who was in there. And the last couple of things are that it's the forecast. Is it going to be increasing? In our case, it was windy at the start, and it was going to be decreasing throughout the day. So that's then going to shape the setup I run on the boat. So, I want to have the boat working as best as possible for all the conditions. So I might choose to set the boat up to go wind better, or I might choose to set it up to go downwind. I chose to go downwind, so I had a much straighter mast, and I might choose to rake it back in other conditions. But for me, at the weekend, it was all about having a straight mast, maximum power. Other things I might consider here is, have I shortened the spinnaker luff length? Have I got longer sheets on so I can hold tight reaches? Those are the kind of things I consider before going afloat. And I guess those are my top tips, Simon.
Yeah, that's good. If anyone's got any questions, well, just put your hand up or put them in the chat box, and we'll try and deal with it go along. And thanks for everyone's contributions. Right. Okay. So it's right. Okay. I think we've covered tires, haven't we?
Yeah, so we've got a little bit of video coming up in a moment of just our start, and it's not particularly, you know, your busy start line, because there's only 6 or 7 boats going off. But, you know, here in the pre-start, my intention is not to be OCS. So I want to hang back, you know, half a boat length, a metre behind the line is not really something I'm worried about. I just want to start in clean air to maximize my handicap to catch the boats, which in my case were Ilkas, as quickly as possible. You know, I look at the start line, decide which way you want to go, and I set up at 12:30, and I was watching the boats, and it was broadly more wind on the left hand side of the race start. So I started on the left hand side, and then it was a quick hitch straight up into the windward mark. So from that, I deduced that I needed to sort of like win the pin or get as near to it as I could. So, you know, I was working towards the left-hand pin. It was my plan, but mindful I didn't want to get into any kind of a luffing battle with anybody. And having started, I want to get out and I want to make sure I'm ahead of all my other competitors, and then I can then push forwards. And so that was our sort of like pre-start plan.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth pointing out, Simon, that some of the starts were much busier. I think, I don't know which start is here, but we've got the Enterprises and I guess the Europes, perhaps the Milkers. So
yeah,
some of the, I mean, we had 20 RS200s, so some of the starts actually were quite full on, weren't they? Others were like, you know, one boat, weren't they? So.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is the look of the draw, and certainly the 200, which is notoriously a competitive fleet. I was chatting to Ben Whaley, and I think he started further towards the committee boat to avoid the melee that was on at the inevitably going to be on at the other end. And actually, starting at the wrong end, it may not have been wrong end. I wasn't on their start, but if you start away from the trouble, you're going to be more likely to get a better result, because you don't want to be wasting time on tactics with some other competitors. So it's all about being selfish, and actually starting at the middle or the wrong end of the line is actually potentially a good idea, Sam.
Yeah. But important to flex what the number of boats are in your start, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a balancing act. Yeah, and you either get lucky or you don't in terms of how many's on the line.
Yeah, but I think Ben Whaley, did he's got to the top 10? I think, or can't remember.
He did. Yeah. Had a great result in 200. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, given he, you know, with all those other 200s to get through, he did incredibly well. Right. Which video is this?
So here we're just lining up for the start, and you can see the pin. So not a lot of traffic. There's 2 boats behind us you can't see, and we've got the national champion just to leeward there of us. But they've had a little bit of a main sheet drop, I think, and allowed us to get out in a clean lane, which was always the intention. So really, all we want to do now is just manage where the rest of the fleet are and sail out. It wasn't the most tactical of beats, and it was short. So really, we just wanted to get to the ley line, which and just tack under the ley line, keeping all the other fleet behind and to leeward of us. So here, you know, I've tacked now and consolidated, and the other 5 2000s are all to leeward of us. So once I've got those boxed in, as it were, I can now push forwards, and that's the key thing. And what I'm doing now is looking forwards to the Ilkas that are rounding or heading up towards the windward mark. So yeah, just it again, really quick round, keeping out of trouble, making sure you're not going to get luffed. And here I'm just going to use boat speed so I don't get luffed, because I don't want to be OCS. And yeah, away we go. So clean start, get the boat moving, and then once you feel you're in a good position, just tack to keep everybody below you. And in your window, what I mean by that is look under the boom and you can see all your, your competitors beneath you. So this was ideal for us.
Yeah, you obviously had quite a bit of space at that stage now. So the ilkers are your next wall to pick up, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So really conscious. I want to go fleet racing. I want to have a good battle with my 2,000 friends. But in this instance, I really don't want them anywhere near me. I just want to get going. It was the strategy here.
Okay.
So as we approach that windward mark, Simon, we've got a plan ahead. So we've now managed to tackle. So we're in a fortunate position that we can see there are 4, 5, 6 ilkers ahead of us. So I'm really interested here on the boat to leeward of me. So my wife Katie here is looking at that boat and tracking that boat to see what they're going to do, because that's clearly going to tack onto starboard and create me a problem. Now, if I was fleet racing and I was a bit closer, I might be tempted to tack underneath that laser and then squeeze up in towards the windward mark. And I wouldn't choose to do what I've done here. But when we replay it, we can just rewind it here and have another look at that and come back to this spinnaker pace if that's possible, Simon. So as we're going up here, what does good look like normally is getting inside and tacking without fouling anybody and getting into this windward mark. But I'm not bothered about that here. I want to go least amount of trouble and have the best linings for next mark. So I want to go to windward of these. So I'm already decided, and we decided this 20 seconds ago, that we were going to dip this boat, inevitably sail on so we could hoist our spinnaker. Yes, we've sailed a bit of distance, but we're making the boat work. Super quick hoist here from Katie. And as we go around windward mark, a little bit overstood, we're up and running. So as we roll down this reach, opportunity now to take some places. We don't want to get stuck in traffic. So I want to go to windward, but inevitably the ilker ahead of us doesn't want us to do that. And then I would do exactly what he's just done now by luffing, which presents me a problem. I now need to go to leeward sufficiently to get underneath his wind shadow. So here, gear change, I'm going to move forwards and drop down to leeward in the hope I can just slip just down out of his wind shadow. Now, this is generally a terrible place to be, but I didn't have many options here. But what I am very fortunate to do is get a gust here, which saves the day, which means I can now sail higher because the boat has picked up speed. Now I've got much more of the breeze. I've probably got about a 5 or 10 knot gust here, which means I can head up higher and then go past that. So it's quite fortunate there. And as I move across this top reach, I'm now thinking from Mark 2 to Mark 3. So I'm looking at that line on the left-hand side of the screen and going, that's a wall of boats. I've got to get over top of those. So I've decided I'm going to go to windward of all of them. That's the conversation we had in our boat at that point, Simon.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Which was a good idea at the time.
Yeah. So you were chasing and bringing those boats out. If you were. Yeah.
And you're just trying to pick them off. It's the next target. How am I going to get around the next boat as quick as possible? Now, so I had this wonderful plan, which went completely pear-shaped. So we'd crafted out this nice lead of about 75 meters on the 2000s, and we'd managed to go past an ilker, which was fabulous. And I had a plan, which was to go to windward of everybody. And which ordinarily would be good. And before the start, I'd actually practiced this. I'd actually done a bit of I'd gone down the first 3 marks. So this was the way pre-start on my pre-start warm-up was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, the wind shifted. So as we go down here, you'll see the spinnaker collapse in a second. And that's not through poor trimming. It's the wind has shifted. So we need to jibe. Now, the problem is, and I hadn't realized because I wasn't looking the right way, everybody else had already jibed. So the 2000s that were behind me, here comes a red kite, which I was 75 meters ahead of, is now inside us and ahead of us. So realizing that it's not going to be very well, I've had to consolidate here and jibe back again. Now, I don't want to do this because I'm going the wrong way to the wind shift. So reluctantly, the plan here is to jibe away and do our own thing and accept the fact that we're not going to get this wind shift. Fingers crossed, it might come back our way. It didn't, but we just have to keep going and keep out of trouble. So it's got a little bit awry here. So really important here not to get too upset. So inevitably you get a little bit upset with yourself, but you have to sort of like recover. So we fast forwarded a little bit down this run, but we went all the way down on the right hand side. So as we're coming down here, so there's a little bit of a bit just talking over. So just running down here, I'm looking on the left hand side to where all the boats are in the place on the left hand side of the screen where I wanted to be, but we couldn't get there. So just carry on really and try and keep calm. So off we go, and the wind is very light here down this first run. Sorry, it's a little bit long this minute. So as I fast forward here to this point here, there's an Ilker which, because I'd switched off briefly, hadn't realised, and the impact of that is a disaster on the spinnaker, which is my fault entirely, not the crew. I was too focused on trying to get to the leeward mark and made an error there, so not ideal. So keep calm, recover it on the next jibe. And here again, you see another 2000 that has profed from the left-hand shift. So, you know, not ideal, but you've just got to keep going. The good news here, though, is, you know, this is just me thinking as I would be as I was sailing, is I'm on the inside for the leeward mark. So it's not all doom and gloom. So the plan now is to try and regain what's gone wrong. There goes 2000 ahead of us, but I'm going to drop early. And I'm going to focus on a good round. We're going to focus on a good rounding here. And as we get around here, we recover ourselves well by getting inside of the Ilker and the 2000 ahead, which is going to give us some options. And actually, which I haven't got the video for, as we get here, we do actually get back into the lead. So where did that go right for us? Eventually, by getting that nice leeward mark rounding at the end. But you know, a lot of things happen. A simple thing of a wind shift there created a lot of trouble, and actually we lost 75 meters. So, you know, if you think probably more, you think of that impact at the end of a race, a pursuit race, when you're coming together, you add up all these little bits of what ifs and might have beens, and you know that's what we do as sailors. We reflect on what we've done.
Yeah. But you dug deep and sort of kept
you just push forwards and move on. It's these things happen, Sam, don't they?
Yeah, you don't give up.
No, keep going. It's the same for everybody else. Everybody else is having their little dramas, and that was us having ours.
Right. Handicapping.
Yeah. So maximising the handicap is the secret to a pursuit race. So we operate on the Sailjuice series with Great Lakes, which is different, you know, to the RAA PY. So it's really important to know what the handicaps of the other boats are, and especially in a pursuit race, really important to know. But what I'm trying to do is maximise my handicap, or our handicap, at all times. So you never want to miss an opportunity. So really, in this next clip, which is down the bottom end of a reservoir, it's coming into it was a long run down to the far side of the lake, and then there was a tight fetch. Now, the thing with the tight fetch is, you know, as we come around here, we're going to gamble. We're going to keep the kite up. It's absolutely super tight for a spinnaker boat here. Duck the flag, and try and keep as high as possible. So in sailing, it's all about rules of thumb, and the rule of thumb here is long course first. So get the kite up for as long as possible down this thing, and we probably held it for 250, 300 meters or something. We then drop it because we can't make it. So reset, get the boat going again, and then don't be afraid to get it back up again 20 seconds later, because you can still make a gain. And if you look at the Ilkers ahead of us here, we're going to get 4 or 5 boat lengths against these Ilkers by just doing just that. If I hadn't have done that, we wouldn't, or Katie hadn't put the kite up, we wouldn't have got there. So we get right back onto the heels of the Ilkers ahead of us. So as we come into this mark, we can drop early. So boat length and a half out. Now, we want to go straight here because that's where the wind shift is, but we've got no option but to tack off, go a short distance, and then hitch back. So it's all about keeping clean air. So what I'm saying is maximize your handicap as much as possible. Don't be afraid to drop the kite, put it back up again. Clearly, if you're in an ilka or a streaker or a hadron, it's probably a good leg for you. But for a spinnaker boat, it's not. It was a bit tricky.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned the RS800, Tom Morris, who's national champion, I think, in the RS800s, the Europes, won the Endeavour Trophy. So pretty useful sailor. He was out there in the 800. We've started over an hour after, I think, or after the mirror.
Yeah, he started at 2 minutes past 1, as we were saying earlier, just in that dip. So they set off, the last boat to go, and they set off. And on Moz's channel, which is the foil, he has posted this fantastic video as allows us to use it, which is great. And it's a real great insight to a skiff versus, you know, what I've just shown you at a much slower pace, really, of pottering around in a hiking boat. The world of skiff sailing is different. So his strategy or his plan was to be 88 boats in the 88 minutes he had in a race, Simon.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, let's just see how he got on.
Okay, so we're just reaching the back of the fleet. This is a pretty good leg for us, mostly twin roaring, and we've now overtaken 22 boats. We're coming into the back of the fleet, but we've only got 18 and a bit minutes of racing. This manoeuvre here is a bit of a classic. These first boats to overtake are often the hardest because they'll be the faster boats. Getting through their dirty air is tricky, so just jiding, being out from that 29er there. This bottom mark, terrible mistake from us, got really frustrated. Had this 200 ahead, we didn't have water on them. The overtake options were either to drop early, round up behind them and overtake to windward, or keep the kite and try and power through to leeward. We kind of did the worst of both worlds. We dropped the kite early, couldn't power through to leeward, and then had to duck behind. The 600 re-overtook us in that situation, and it wasn't until right at the end of the next leg that we actually got close to the 600 and overtook them for the second time. Being re-overtaken is definitely not what you want to be doing in these pursuit races.
Right.
No, it's a real good watch. If you go on the foil and watch the whole 8.5 minutes, it's a great insight to Mozzie and Guy Fillmore there doing a great job in not RSA on conditions.
Yeah.
And much the same as anybody other than the boats that are out the front. You know, if you're something like, you know, Ian in the mirror, who was out, you don't really see any boat. It's just about keeping everybody behind you, whereas everybody else is going to have dramas. So, you know, in some respects, you know, coming from behind is much tougher than being out the front because you have all the traffic to deal with.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has a bit of drama here, doesn't he, Simon? Sorry.
Yeah, coming unstuck with this RS200, didn't he? In terms of gets just by him and then gets behind him when he sort of gets stuffed at that mark.
It does, yeah. And hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you know, as sailors, we generally know what to do. It's we find ourselves immersed in it. And why did the guys get stuck in that position? Inevitably, probably because they were thinking about something else and then just literally switched off to that little moment. They were probably thinking of the bigger picture, and sometimes you forget the simple things, which well, I've actually got to go past that boat because you're already thinking on to the next. And probably as simple as that, really, which can be incredibly frustrating.
And well, thanks for Tom for sharing that. And as you say, it is different dynamics for the faster boats. I mean, the RS800 was the fastest boat, and quite a bit faster than things like the 200. So they've got to get past them quickly, but then they can act like a bit of a wall, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, just one thing like that can make, you know, 60 seconds difference, you know, very easily. So yeah, incredibly frustrating. And as we're moving on here, Simon, I think, you know, we have it's inevitable you're going to get stuck behind. So, you know, in the slower boats, it's easier to try and plan ahead and maneuver because you've got more time to do so. You know, you have to make an early decision. Don't pontificate. You've got to actually do something and be, you know, proactive, not reactive. And yeah, it's easy, as I said already, you know, for your focus to be ahead and not thinking of the the simple thing. You liken it to a snooker player. They're thinking about getting onto the blue and miss the red, which is a simple thing to do. So it's super easy to do.
Yeah, but I think, as you said, that your handicap, other boats, number of boats is quite significant, because you can see the Mirrors and Firefly is having a nice bit of clear run here. I think that's probably Ian Morgan and the Streaker just behind. So they've got a different race really going on to that big cluster of boats in the middle.
Yeah.
You've got to think. Right. Right. Another video slide.
Yeah. So, this is not quite at RS 800 warp speed. It's at 2000 tastic speed, and we're going along the bottom of the reservoir here on a run, and there's an Ilka ahead of us. Now, this is the most frustrating 1 minute 22 seconds of the race. So here, I'd already made the decision 60 seconds ago that I was going to go to windward of this laser, or this Ilka, and then proceeded, for whatever reason, to go to leeward of it. And as we get into here, it's like a black hole. The boat just stops, and you're thinking, all the time your competitors are catching you from behind. Certainly the 2000s were catching us from behind, hence I'm looking behind anxiously here. So you can see here by my body language, it's not particularly a happy place. So at the moment, I'm worried about what's doing. So what I need to do here is actually take some action, which takes me about 50 seconds to decide to slip sideways here. So what I actually do is raise the centerboard, go sideways and sit in a little bit. But here, with frustration, I thought, I'll just go over the top of them. Well, that didn't help matters, because that failed. So I go back to my other plan now of, I'm going to go low, and I'm going to raise the centerboard to skip sideways just to get out of the dirty wind. And that took me about a minute to sort my head out, as it were, to do that. So you're thinking of the next thing, and you can see now we're starting to move forwards again. But it's quite a long period. All the time I've been talking, the boat's not going as quick as it could have done. So a big time stealer here from making a simple mistake of not going to windward of the boat ahead of me. Or not going far enough to leeward was my other option. So very similar to what Mozzie and Guy did in their 8, but just a subtly different scenario.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to the Bloody Mary, isn't it? All these boats handling the traffic, isn't it? Really. Yeah.
And if you just add up all these little snippets, and it's happening to everybody else, all that, where would you have been if you hadn't have done that? And that's what that's what we always try and reflect on to try and improve upon the next time we go sailing, really.
Right. Okay. Let's quickly flash that up. But right. So we're now in the second half of the Seldén Sailjuice Winter Series, and now the first discard has come in, and we have a new leader, Gavin.
Yeah, brilliant.
Gavin is with us, jumping ahead of Paul Young. Tom Gillard and Rachel Gray were leading for some time, but I think they've gone off skiing or gone to the sun, haven't they? So they've taken a bit of a break. But I think, as Simon, you keep saying, it's all about getting the results in, isn't it? And we could lose all events, and Gavin could be our winner.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the years there, Katie and I were successful. Our strategy was to do as many events as possible. So you've the probability is going to go in your favor. So yes, you might win 4 events on the bounce, which is fantastic, but highly unlikely. So yeah, if you're doing 7 events or 8 events, then the probability is you're going to get a really good score. Yeah,
and what a fantastic range of classes in there. 10 different classes, pretty much covering every variant of dinghy racing in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, which is absolutely great.
Right. Okay. Back on. So yeah, surprisingly, some quite good top speed we saw at Bloody Mary. Got the skiffs probably almost at their wind speed, weren't they? I think so.
Yeah, it's incredible to think, with the breeze and ebbing away, and noting that the skiffs wouldn't have started until, certainly 10 to 1 stroke 1 o'clock, and to get 9.2 knots in that light breeze, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and these are actually a sustained speed. They're not a burst speed. They're over at 20 seconds. They're probably hitting double figures. And obviously the punts drift along nicely, don't they? They're massive sail areas.
Yeah, they are.
Not surprised to see them up there on that board. But then the Firefly, yeah, another Pank, hitting 7 knots and so forth, just ahead of the punt, and Amelia, fresh back from winning the Youth Worlds in the 29, not doing bad as well.
Yeah, no, really good to see. Yeah, and surprising when you see, it's really interesting stats, isn't it? When you put your handicap to, across, adjust it for the speed, it's really interesting to see.
And I think what it shows is how efficient everyone was sailing, really, because as I said, they're not far off the wind speed, aren't they?
Yeah.
So everyone was really squeezing that full power out of the wind. All right, okay, so just to round up Bloody Mary.
Yeah, amazing achievement, as we said, for Jono and his 2 crews, Isobel and Freddie. To win twice is an amazing achievement, and with 2 different crews is also fantastic. Just remember, with the pursuit race, it's you versus the clock, and it's about managing the risk at marks. It's about starting cleanly. And it's about thinking ahead, so you don't put yourself in a position that is so frustrating. And I certainly had 3 frustrating moments in the course of the race, and the impact of that might be another 1 or 2 places further forward. Clean start, super key. Manage a start. Don't get into a battle. Execute your plan, which is to get out the front as quick as possible. Keep out of trouble, as I say, the windward mark. And if it goes wrong, well, don't despair. Keep in clean air, and you'll always be with a shout, I think. So, although I went the wrong way in our situation, we were still at the right place at the leeward mark, so we made the right decision. And I think those are sort of the key things, really, Simon. It's managing the fleet as you go round.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, hanging in there. Because where did you end up? 5th, was it?
We were 4th.
4th, yeah, sorry. Catching that, yeah, and I think you were probably the first of the faster group of boats, weren't you?
Yeah, I think only 150 metres off the lead, and you think to yourself, well, if we hadn't have done that, where might you have been? You never know, because there's always something going to happen. You never get round unscathed in a pursuit race, so you accept. So you just try and do better the next time you go out.
Yeah, right. Okay, so a quick look at some of the extracted results. So these are done slightly different to the overall, based on every race, and then discard every third. So the slow asymmetric RS200 of Alistair and Ellis still in the lead, but point out that Luke Fisher has jumped up there to 3rd. I think Luke's perennial entrant, isn't he, Simon, and often up there. So don't count against him being doing well at the end.
Yeah. Luke has been very close to winning the series over the years, and he normally has the Vario at ripping around, and he's always there or thereabouts.
Yeah, and you can see in this picture, I think this was Polar Chase. Really concentrate hard, looking for those gaps, looking for those wind shifts, isn't it? So, because you keep saying it's all about working every second. Right, and then the final one to look at is the for today is the fast asymmetrics. We see Jonathan here doing well, and the Musto Skiff and the RS500. But, again, it's all about getting those results, isn't it, Simon?
It is, yeah, and all the people here have done multiple events, and that reflects in the rankings. You've got to be out there sailing, to get in there and win your category. And there's lots of categories that you can win.
Lots of categories, yeah. So good chance. Ages, demographics, types of boats, and so forth. So gives you a real chance to compare yourself equally to your similar boats or similar peers. Right. Okay. So next event is a Tiger Trophy, just over 2 weeks. Can be a windy one. I don't know if this was the real windy one, Simon. Was it? Do you remember?
No, I think this one looks mildly like to the windy one, but
windy. But, I think fair to say that David Wilkins, the race officer, past Olympic medalist and the Flying Dutchman, will always make the racing happen. If you can get to Rutland, it will happen. I think it's only probably been cancelled once, I think, when you couldn't even get to the club because it snowed in. I don't know, if you remember that one, Simon.
Yeah, a long time, a while ago, I think now.
A while ago, but literally the whole of Rutland was cut off. You couldn't even get to the club. So But if you get there, if it's even if it's running 40 knots, David will run it. So please do turn up. And then we've got the great tiger dinner in the evening. So great social one to have. So hope to see a good turnout there. But fantastic sailing. Right, we mentioned the Grafham Grand Prix. We should have had the Grafham Grand Prix at the moment, but unfortunately, Grafham decided to cancel that on the basis of the weather forecast. Fortunately, they've agreed to sort of rerun that on the 8th, but it has thrown up a few sort of questions about weather forecasts. We do hang on the weather forecast you mentioned. So I think we had most of the Queen Mary entries enter probably within a few hours, didn't we, Simon?
Yeah, it was all very mad rush at the end there. Yeah,
which sort of doesn't sort of help everyone. So Andy Rice, I hope Simon will join in. We're going to set up a bit of a task force with some of the clubs, classes. So if anyone's keen to sort of join in that small group to really look at some of the issues about weather forecasts, cancellations, refunds, there's a few sort of bigger picture issues that we need to look at. But we're welcome to have people to contribute to that. I think it's important that we understand the issues, because these events take a hell of a lot of people to run them, and I think it's easy to forget that, and it's easy to forget some of the issues that go on in the background about organising it and things like that. So, the longer you can give us notice, the more we can give notice and so forth, the better. But I think this is people's the opportunity to sort of join into that. But if you want to join into that, please do drop us a line. Right. Okay. So yeah, I think that brings us to a close, Simon. So halfway point, I think we've probably got more races than last year, haven't we? I think so. We probably passed the bar there, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had, so far, I guess we've had one cancellation, but all the events that I've run have run with all the racing. So, all to play for still. And with the Grafham Grand Prix coming back online, every chance that we'll get every race of this 26 Winter Series in time. Yeah,
and it's turning out to be a cracking one, really. We've had a range of wins, haven't we? We haven't had a real drift, have we? But we've had sort of 5 knots, haven't we, to sort of near 30 knots, I think, haven't we?
Yeah, they've all been very fair, very saleable. So yeah, there've been no driftathons. There've been no ridiculously windy ones. So it's been well within sensible sailing conditions and opportunities for everybody, really. So it's been a cracking series so far, and great to see 125 boats out, and I look forward to seeing a big entry at the Tiger Trophy, which is a super event. And it's the top 2 events. The Tiger Trophy is it's another iconic event, isn't it? I think
it is, and it's a great format with the average lap wrestling on Saturday, and then the pursuit on Sunday. Again, giving people a good chance at every sort of condition going, and really look forward to that.
Yes, definitely looking forward to it.
Right, okay. Well, we've gone a bit longer than normal, but we look forward to seeing everyone in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks very much for joining, guys.
Thank you, Simons.
You guys.
Thank you, Simons. Yeah, thank you very much.
Excuse me, please.